When it comes to being the king of the sea, King Neptune doesn't just rule, he demands a royal audience for every ego trip. Even when he's sleeping, he can't help but call attention to himself. In SpongeBob vs. the Patty Gadget, things start off wild and only get weirder when King Neptune literally gets woken up by a burger flipping competition. The whole showdown starts when Squidward tries to replace SpongeBob with a fancy burger making machine called the Patty Gadget. SpongeBob's not about to let a glorified toaster steal his bloody thunder, so he challenges the contraption to a Krabby Patty war. It's a heated battle of sponge versus machine, with our spongy boy somehow keeping up with the gadget's turbo patty speed. Meanwhile, Patrick's biggest struggle is finding a bathroom. This dude's priorities. The chaos reaches a crescendo when Squidward panics and ends up breaking the handle on the Patty Gadget, setting off a chain reaction that overloads the machine. SpongeBob's relentless patty flipping finally overwhelms the gadget. My guy is try-harding full steam over here, causing it to explode in a spectacular burst of grease and metal. The explosion's so damn massive, it does something even more impressive than destroying the machine. It wakes up King Neptune from his nap. Apparently, the god of the sea is such a heavy sleeper that only a culinary catastrophe loud enough to shake the ocean can rouse him from his slumber. Neptune's appearance may be brief, but it's a solid reminder that the king's ego is so grand, even his naps are a matter of royal importance. It's like he can't even rest without letting everyone know that being woken up is an offense worthy of his divine attention. Sure, he doesn't exactly do much here besides getting irritated, but just the fact that SpongeBob's Patty War managed to disturb the king's beauty sleep adds a hilarious introduction to this dude's character. This episode may not give Neptune a ton of screen time, but his dramatic wake up from a nap after a mere patty flipping explosion serves as yet another reminder. The king's ego can't go unruffled, not even for a minute. Neptune's egomaniacal tendencies never seem to take a break, whether he's obsessing over his trident or dragging others into his crappy ideas of a good time, like in Party Pooper Pants. The episode is split between Patchy the Pirate's chaotic house party and SpongeBob's attempt to host the perfect underwater gathering. Patchy kicks things off by welcoming viewers to his party. He's invited everyone except the one person we'd expect to show up, SpongeBob. This seems like a glaring oversight, but as SpongeBob explains later, the invitation got ruined by water, leading him to conclude that Patchy clearly doesn't understand how underwater life works. Nice try, Patchy. Patchy's star-studded guest list features some interesting choices, including Minnie Mermaid, Longbeard the Pirate, and hey, check it out, it's none other than King Neptune himself. Yep, the King of the Sea graces Patchy's little party with his royal presence, which really just gives Neptune another opportunity to flaunt his ego. Neptune's around for the fame and glory, while Patchy struggles to keep the attention on himself. Pretty on brand for an egomaniac like Neptune. Meanwhile, in Bikini Bottom, SpongeBob's strolling through the bargain mart where he stumbles upon a plan-your-own party kit. Being the overly eager sponge that he is, SpongeBob decides to throw a massive bash for practically the entire town. He ignores the kit's advice to only invite your closest friends, and instead aims for a guest list that rivals a music festival. To make matters worse, SpongeBob draws up a meticulous schedule down to the second, ensuring everything happens on time. Or so he thinks. Our poor spongy boy has no idea how parties work, it seems. As guests start arriving at different times, SpongeBob's rigid schedule quickly falls apart. Called it. When the crowd dares to do activities that aren't part of his brutal timeline, he starts passing out topic cards like some kind of control freak. Things turn awkward in a hurry. Even when the party is fully underway, he insists that everyone stop having fun and do the most riveting activity imaginable, reading the funnies. And not even today's funnies, yesterday's newspaper, because that's how you really liven up a party. It isn't long before SpongeBob realizes he's locked himself out of his own house. As the party rages on inside, SpongeBob is stuck outside, desperately trying to get back in, misinterpreting the sounds of fun as impending doom. He tries breaking in with all sorts of failed tactics, including going full bunny burglar mode with a pickaxe. Right when he's about to smash through the window, the cops show up, almost arresting him for trying to break into his own house. SpongeBob narrowly avoids jail, but since the police didn't get an invite, they arrest him anyway just to make him miss his own party. Jeez, that's petty AF. Back at Patchy's shindig, Neptune's still doing his thing while Patchy tries to teach dance moves to a crowd that's clearly more interested in rocking out to The Bird Brains, the band Potty hired. Patchy ends up getting blasted out of his own house because the music's too loud for his taste. And there's There's old Neptune still doing his thing. It's just another reminder that Neptune's there purely for the spectacle. He doesn't mind a little chaos as long as he's being worshipped or entertained. SpongeBob returns home the next morning, ready to see the absolute disaster he's sure has unfolded, but to his surprise, the party was actually a huge hit. Patrick tells him it was the best bash ever, and SpongeBob realizes that maybe he didn't need a rigid plan after all. Parties are about having fun, not following some tyrannical schedule. Wow, who knew? Even Gary got in on the fun, rocking a lampshade like a college kid champ. SpongeBob finally gets it. Sometimes you've just gotta let things go and let the party take on a life of its own. Back at Patchy's party, things wrap up with him literally blowing up on stage. Potty, who set him up with a fake flute that turned out to be dynamite, seizes the opportunity to make himself the center of attention. Patchy may have survived the explosion with just his head intact, but even with a barrel for a body, he can't seem to keep up with Neptune's ego. In Party Pooper Pants, Neptune's presence at Patchy's bash is a subtle reminder of his egomaniacal nature. It's a small taste of Neptune's larger-than-life persona, and in true Neptune style, even his brief appearances manage to leave an impact. And of course, King Neptune finds a way to make it about him again in high sea diving. It all begins with SpongeBob getting ready to make history as the first sea sponge to dive up to the surface, which defies the laws of physics and any form of logic. Chaos ensues when SpongeBob's balloons can't quite handle the weight of trash floating above the ocean, leading to a bizarre encounter with Old Man Jenkins, who's totally gone off the deep end and believes he's King Neptune. With Old Man Jenkins parading around as a pseudo-Neptune, the Bikini Bottomites gobble up the idea that the random trash gifts drifting down are Neptune's blessings. They're so convinced they're frigging worshipping this trash, ready to sacrifice people to keep the freebies coming. SpongeBob and Old Man Jenkins start a rat shit trash fight, sending objects raining down on the town with everyone scrambling for their Neptune blessings like it's a holiday sale. And the real King Neptune swoops in just in time to smite Old Man Jenkins for daring to impersonate the god of the sea. It's like Neptune can't resist the chance to make a dramatic ego-stroking entrance, complete with a display of power to remind everyone who the real king is. Neptune shows up just to assert dominance and let everyone know that pretending to be him is a punishable offense. This guy's appearance in this episode is packed with his signature ego and grandiosity. So, in Neptune's spatula, King Neptune's ego is practically larger than the ocean itself, and he wastes no time proving it. When SpongeBob and Patrick visit the Fry Cook Museum, SpongeBob effortlessly pulls a golden spatula out of a greasy griddle, a feat that was supposedly impossible for anyone not worthy of King Neptune himself. Cue the grand entrance. King Neptune appears in a swirl of smoke, ready to assert his dominance over a simple fry cook who dares to challenge his godly reputation. Instead of just bloody congratulating SpongeBob for doing something no one else could, Neptune flat out refuses to believe that a mere mortal could have accomplished such a thing. He even interrogates the entire museum crowd for confirmation and demands photographic evidence like he's conducting a divine courtroom trial. Once SpongeBob is confirmed as the spatula's rightful wielder, Neptune's wounded pride takes center stage. There's no way he can accept being one-upped by a fry cook without turning the situation into a crappy spectacle. So he challenges SpongeBob to the ultimate cook-off, with laughable stakes that only serve to inflate his already massive ego. If SpongeBob loses, he has to quit fry cooking forever. If he wins, he becomes a god and lives in Atlantis. You'd think a humble deity would have more important things to do than flex his culinary superiority over Bikini Bottom residents, but Neptune's all about proving he's the top fish in the sea, literally. During the competition, King Neptune shows off his powers by conjuring up 1,000 Krabby Patties in seconds, while SpongeBob carefully crafts just one patty. In Neptune's mind, quantity trumps quality, and magic obviously trumps effort. But when the crowd rejects Neptune's tasteless patties, it's clear that his ego got in the way of actually delivering something good. He's not humbled by the audience's criticism. Instead, he gets all defensive, insisting that there's no way SpongeBob's could be better. Neptune's sense of entitlement is so absurd that he even tries to re-eat the regurgitated patty for a second taste. Like that's gonna redeem his garbage cooking. Okay, but seriously, regurgitating a patty just to eat it again? That is just so so gross on so many levels. And this guy is the king of the ocean? Right. Anyway, moving on. SpongeBob wins the challenge, not by showing off or using divine powers, but by putting actual care into his food, a concept Neptune can't even grasp. But does Neptune accept defeat graciously? Of course not. Instead, he stubbornly maintains his superiority complex and has to be dragged into learning how to cook like a mortal. And let's not forget how he casually zaps Patrick multiple times, barely even hesitating to turn him into a smoking crater just for some backtalk. Even after restoring Patrick, he doesn't fix the fact that his face is now on his rear end, because why would a glorious godly egomaniac like him bother with such drivel like that? This episode perfectly showcases King Neptune's ego in action. He's too proud to admit he might not be the best at everything, can't handle criticism, and views himself as fundamentally above everyone else. The fact that he has to become a trainee fry cook at the Krusty Krab by the end is a fitting dose of humility, even if you know he's not really going to learn much from it, as is evident in his nasty-ass behavior while Patrick hunts for the legend of the lost bathroom. So Patrick is on The Patrick Show, devouring prunes like he's gunning for a world record. And guess what? He hits the 1 million mark. Chugging coffee, salsa, and prune juice to wash it all down isn't exactly a recipe for comfort though, so Patrick's gotta make a mad dash to the crapper. But this is the Patrick Star Show, so of course things don't go that smoothly. Patrick finds out that the upstairs bathroom is occupied by Cecil, who's apparently multitasking with taxes and a porcelain bowl buddy named Tinkle. So he heads to the downstairs bathroom, but Grandpat beats him to it, leaving Patrick in desperate straits. Now, Grandpat, ever the fountain of bizarre wisdom, tells Patrick and Squidina about a legendary lost bathroom in the house, like some ancient relic that no one has ever managed to reach. And Patrick sets off on a quest with Squidina to find this elusive crap palace. Their first clue is a riddle, which leads them to Daddy Dartfish's place. After a bizarre encounter there, Mommy Dartfish hands Patrick a magical scroll of toilet paper. That's right, a literal toilet map unfolds, pointing Patrick and Squidina toward their living room. Turns out the map's clues involve some hole and number puzzle with the house's cell phone chair, which, when butt dialed by Patrick, reveals a hidden passage to the basement. Yeah, apparently Patrick's rear end is basically a master key now. Down in the basement, they navigate a treacherous path to a secret tomb where Dr. Plumber awaits. This guy's like a cross between an escape room host and an ancient temple guardian, throwing puzzles at them like a bathroom-themed Indiana Jones. Patrick's problem-solving approach? Smash stuff with a sledgehammer, obviously. He wrecks a sink to find a key and busts open a hidden door only to end up falling through the floor. Just when it seems like they've reached their lavatorial promised land, Dr. Plumber breaks the news. They've still got to dig under an X mark, because finding this bathroom isn't extra enough already. After an epic dig, they finally uncover the lost bathroom, but it turns out to belong to none other than King Neptune himself. Neptune catches these two intruders in his sacred shit pad and gives them the royal flush. Literally. He sends Patrick and Squidina swirling down the toilet pipes like it's an aquatic roller coaster. They end up back in the Star Home with Patrick casually announcing that he no longer needs to go. Squidina, because one prune challenge just wasn't enough, suggests they aim for 2 million next. So they're back on the show, and as the camera cuts away, we see Slappy inside the lost bathroom flushing himself down Neptune's toilet because, well, you know what? I haven't got a clue why the guy's doing this shit. So, after an epic treasure hunt turned bathroom chase, Patrick and Squidina finally uncover the so-called lost bathroom. But plot twist, it's not just any bathroom, it's King Neptune's personal porcelain throne. Neptune's colossal ego can't resist the dramatic entrance as he catches Patrick and Squidina trespassing. With all the flair of a wannabe god king, Neptune acts like they've committed some heinous crime against his royal porcelain. Instead of just shooing them away, Neptune goes for the theatrical touch by flushing them down his grand toilet twice. Because, of course, nothing screams, "I'm an all-powerful deity," like treating your bathroom as an actual throne room and launching intruders down the drain for daring to approach your sacred commode. Neptune's over-the-top reaction and obsession with his lost bathroom being some untouchable sanctuary perfectly captures his egotistical persona. He's a guy who takes himself way too seriously, even when it comes to bathrooms, which we see in full egotistical force in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Right from his introduction, we get a clear picture of just how full of himself he is. When Plankton enacts Plan Z and steals Neptune's crown, the king's reaction is nothing short of theatrical. He's not just angry about the theft, he's absolutely devastated because without his crown, his shiny bald head is exposed for all to see. Neptune's vanity is so extreme that the mere thought of being seen bald sends him into a full-on panic. It's like his entire sense of authority and self-worth hinges on that one piece of jewelry. He charges into the Krusty Krab with enough fury to give Squidward's usual bad mood a run for its money, threatening to fry Mr. Krabs on the spot. His crown is a giant symbol of his self-importance, and losing it is apparently a bigger crisis than his actual job of ruling the sea. King Neptune's inability to handle this loss without having a royal meltdown only further highlights his vanity. It doesn't matter that Krabs is begging for his life or that the proof is questionable at best. Neptune's ego won't allow him to admit that he might be wrong. The king's attitude is more zap first, ask questions later, and he has zero problem threatening to literally fry Krabs just to satisfy his own bruised pride. The fact that he's willing to execute someone over a crown says everything you need to know about Neptune's inflated sense of self-importance. Even when SpongeBob steps in to stop Neptune from burning Krabs to a crisp, the king's arrogance is palpable. He immediately dismisses SpongeBob's bravery and determination to retrieve the crown, mocking him for being too young and unworthy. Bruh, did you forget the spatula fiasco? Neptune's condescending attitude reveals that he doesn't take anyone seriously enough unless they're on his godly level, and the idea that our spongy boy could accomplish something he couldn't is a blow to his pride. Neptune's ego also prevents him from taking responsibility for the situation, or even considering other solutions. Nah, instead of handling the crown theft with a level head, he impulsively decides to freeze Krabs and gives SpongeBob a mere 6 days to bring back the crown, all while basking in his own authority. It's not about justice for Neptune, it's about maintaining his image and proving that no one can mess with a god and get away with it. Meanwhile, as the chaos unfolds, Plankton capitalizes on Neptune's ego, manipulating the situation to perfection. He knows that as long as the king is blinded by his obsession with the crown, no one's going to see his real plan coming. The fact that Neptune lets Plankton dictate terms for SpongeBob and Patrick's mission, even delaying Mr. Krabs' execution just because Plankton suggests it, shows just how easily his bloody ego can be swayed. Neptune's vanity really gets cranked up when he sets an impossible deadline for SpongeBob and Patrick to retrieve the crown from Shell City. It's like he's convinced they can defy time itself just because he decreed it. Instead of, using his powers to assist the mission or making rational choices, Neptune's all about looking tough and maintaining his kingly image, even if that means pushing an absurd ultimatum onto two goofballs with shit qualifications. When Neptune catches up with SpongeBob and Patrick at the end of the movie, he's still on a power trip. Rather than considering the possibility that SpongeBob's heroic effort might actually deserve some praise, he's set on carrying out the execution of Mr. Krabs because he refuses to look weak. His insecurity is so palpable, dudes, I can almost smell it, it's so bad. Like, he's afraid admitting any kind of mistake would shatter his illusion of supreme authority. It's not about justice or fairness, it's about making sure no one questions his power. SpongeBob's big goofy goober rock performance manages to snap Neptune out of his egotistical haze long enough to see the truth. It takes an entire musical number for him to realize that maybe his priorities were out of whack. And in Clash of Triton, he doesn't get the wake-up call at all. It's Neptune's 5,000th birthday bash, and nothing screams, "let's celebrate," quite like forcing your subjects to party at the Krusty Krab. When King Neptune rolls in, his first order of business is to enjoy a massive pile of Krabby Patties, but things quickly take a nosedive when SpongeBob mentions his son, Triton. And this is where we see Neptune's dramatic breakdown, complete with a homemade tragic dad movie about the time he locked Triton in a cage until he learned how to be a proper god. Ah yes, nothing says loving fatherhood like treating your own kid as though he's a zoo exhibit. It's clear from the jump that Neptune's got some seriously twisted priorities. Instead of dealing with his problems like a normal parent, or, a god, he's content to wallow in self-pity and blame Triton for not living up to his expectations. The dude trapped his son on an island in a shrunken cage for not being powerful enough, basically saying, "get on my level or or get in the cage. That's some top-tier egomania right there. When SpongeBob and Patrick unleash Triton from his mystical timeout corner, the guy understandably flips out and heads straight to Bikini Bottom to unleash some pent-up rage. Turns out the whole lock your son in a cage until he learns to be a god strategy has some downsides, mainly that Triton's now on a full-scale rampage. He doesn't just want to show off his powers, he wants to level the entire city to make up for lost time. It's chaos, destruction, and honestly kind of impressive. This guy goes from trapped teenager to godlike demolition expert in about 2 seconds flat. Of course, Neptune's reaction to all this mayhem is a classic I told you so moment. Rather than actually fix the mess Triton's made, he's ready to dish out more punishment because that worked so well the first time. But Triton has Neptune, the party guests, and half of Bikini Bottom trapped in a cage, flipping the script on his dad in the most dramatic way possible. It's a full-on royal family feud, and the only thing missing is some popcorn. In the middle of this bizarre father-son showdown, Neptune's ego does a full 180. After seeing the wreckage that Triton has caused, Neptune's furious at first, but then he has a complete change of heart. He suddenly decides that this mass destruction was the best birthday present ever because in his eyes, Triton finally learned to use his powers like a real god. Yep, you heard that right. Destroying a city is what finally earns Triton some dad approval. Neptune's standards are as messed up as a clogged toilet. It's not about Triton finding his path or becoming a better person, it's about Triton finally living up to Neptune's inflated expectations. Neptune's decision to turn a catastrophic tantrum into a feel-good moment is peak egomania. Instead of acknowledging his own failings as a parent, he doubles down and acts like all the chaos was part of some master plan to toughen Triton up. It's almost like he's gaslighting the entire ocean into thinking this was all a meaningful life lesson, rather than a reckless act of desperation. The episode ends with Neptune proudly strutting off with his family, while SpongeBob and Patrick are left running for their lives from an angry mob. Because, of course, the king takes all the glory and leaves someone else to deal with the fallout. His over-the-top antics leave Bikini Bottom in shambles. It's clear that Neptune's more concerned with stroking his own ego than actually being a good parent or ruler. So, when Trident trouble comes knocking, he freaks out like a kid who just lost his security blanket. The episode starts with a Greek chorus narrating the story, setting the stage for the chaos ahead. Oh boy. Neptune, as always, is basking in his godly glory, complete with a golden smartphone because even the ruler of the sea needs to scroll through selfies. Enter SpongeBob, who's too engrossed in his comic book to realize he's about to collide with royalty. One bump later, and they accidentally swap items. SpongeBob ends up with Neptune's trident, while Neptune gets SpongeBob's trusty spatula. Neptune doesn't notice because, let's be real, he's way too into his own phone. SpongeBob heads to the Krusty Krab, totally unaware that he's wielding the power of the gods. All he wants is to speed up the lunch rush, so he wishes the ingredients were chopped, and bam, the trident makes it happen. Our spongy boy's like, whoa, didn't know my spatula had an upgrade. He gets carried away using the trident to whip up dancing Krabby Patties, which the customers love, until the patties grow huge and evil, attacking everyone in sight. Mayhem. Krabs is losing his crap over the customers fleeing and the moolah that's going down the drain. From there, things spiral further as SpongeBob tries to fix random problems around town. The trident, however, has a twisted sense of humor, turning a pacifier into a giant monster that eats a baby, making grass grow into sentient, mowing-hungry plants, and causing an ice cream flood that drowns Bikini Bottom. Don't even get me started on this totally illogical concept. How in the flipping heck can you cause an ice cream flood in a place that's already flooded with water? What was supposed to be harmless fun quickly morphs into a nightmare because, let's face it, this level of power is way out of SpongeBob's league. But you know who should be able to handle it? King Neptune. So where the hell is he while all this catastrophe unfolds? While Bikini Bottom's getting wrecked, Neptune is off battling a sea monster's mom using SpongeBob's spatula, which he thinks is his trident. He even tries to use it like a magic wand, only to get beaten senseless when he realizes he's been swinging around a fast food utensil this whole time. You'd think a god would notice he's holding the wrong weapon, but apparently Neptune's too busy being full of himself to tell the difference. The entire mix-up is just a testament to Neptune's bloated ego. He's so convinced of his own invincibility that it doesn't even cross his mind that he could have messed up. And when he finally returns to reclaim his trident, he's not concerned with the damage done to the town or the citizens. No, he's just annoyed that someone else dared to wield his power. After wrestling the trident back into submission, Neptune does what he should have been doing all along, fixing the problems his trident created. He restores Bikini Bottom to normal, and SpongeBob is all ready to grovel at his feet for forgiveness. Neptune's response? Oh, it's simple. Help me make a giant Krabby Patty monster to chase down the Krakens that beat me up. Because if there's one thing Neptune can't resist, it's showing off. Instead of taking responsibility for the mess, or even realizing that maybe he needs to be a little more careful with his godly powers, he turns the whole situation into an opportunity to show off.